Hey, that makes a difference, doesn't it? Wow, yeah, on one of them it does. Okay, how's that? That's looking more like it. Okay. Maybe a tiny bit higher. Tiny bit higher. All right. And levels for the sound of the other stuff. Stop giving away all my listen to things. How about this? Why not? Let's have a look at this today. Well, this is one of my favourites. Can we hear that? Okay. That looks a bit louder than me. Now, what I think we want to get is a situation where I can listen to that and speak over it. So something about there. That looks pretty good. I think that should work pretty well. Maybe a tiny bit lower. Yeah. Nope. Maybe even a bit more. Okay. Something like that. Okay. Alright. Now, if we're going to talk about this album, just in general, or if we're going to talk about Björk as it is, we need to somewhat leave the realm of chords. Now, there are chords, but a large proportion of Björk's work is not really focused on a linear change between one chord and another, where there's a chord and then in the next bit there's another chord. On this album in particular, but a common theme in various different Björk bits is that we have lines that intertwine, and the way the lines work give us chords, sort of, but those chords are also a little bit more transient than we would expect normal chords to be, and from note to note, as the different parts shift, the chords slightly alter and change, and they become more like just things interlocking in different ways, a much more complicated process than just playing a load of notes at the same time. It's like this kind of thing. There are chords being made by the relationships between those notes, but they are much less clear because the notes are sort of moving very quickly, but also they're not necessarily correlating with each other in straightforward ways. So hearing each of the chords as separate is not actually very easy. Anyway, let's have a look. So Biophilia is what I got up just there, a bit of Moon. Let me, how do I do this again? There we go. Spotify. Biophilia is one of my favourite Björk albums. It's quite difficult. It is not an easy listen overall. It's challenging sonically. I think that there is also there's a long version of Hollow. Cool. I haven't listened to that. There is also something of a deliberate challenge in the music. It's intended to be something that you can sit with and develop a deeper understanding and a deeper comfort with over time, rather than it being something on the surface very clear, understandable, similar to what you've already heard. And that's good. I appreciate that in all contexts. I hope we get more of that in the future. People who are just willing to sit and go, this is what I do, and also this is beneficial, but you do need to sit with this. Don't just write it off because it's not like what you've heard already. Okay? Cool. So, Moon is our first track. So, straight away we've got this line, and it does repeat. I'll spoil it for you. It's up a whole nother octave from here, up there, something like that. So it's going down from, it's mainly using pentatonics, or even these 4 notes, E, D, C, and then over to G. E, D, C, but we also do use the B a little bit. Let's hear it one more time. Yeah. Yeah, it's a difficult rhythm, and I'm just going to sit with it for a little while. We've got that. 3 on there, and 3 on there. And 2 on each of those. Which is an interesting rhythm. Okay, and now we've got something else coming in. We've got Björk herself coming in. So it's taking off. We got about 4 repetitions of that. So how many beats is that? If we just think of those as beats, even though they're quite long, we'll probably subdivide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 beats. So that's really doing us well to divide that. How do we do it? 16 plus 1? Well, no. We have to subdivide this in unequal chunks. That could be our first thing. But I sort of feel like that first one is an upbeat. And that means it comes before the first beat of the bar. So it's like, and 1, and 1, and 1. And then it's da, 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 da. That feels like, for me, it feels like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then on, da, 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 da. Same thing again there. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1. So, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's not how it feels though to me. Those that's how it feels to me. So we've got an emphasis on the second of each of those ones, on the low G, low C, B and G there. So and 1 and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and then that's a 2. Okay. So all together, what do we got there? That's starting then on a 2. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. So we've got a 2 to start with, or upbeat to start with, then 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2. Okay. How many is that? A 2 to start with, then 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2. Okay, yeah, so 4 2s is 8, 3 3s is 9, 8 and 9 together make 17. So that's as many beats as we got there. And they're divided in an unusual way, but this is actually much more common for, say, medieval music or Anglican chant, or, well, music from all over the world, really. It's not common in pop music, and that's somewhat unsettling us here. But it's common to loop things or to have things in shorter phrase lengths which are just uneven. We don't always have to keep things in an even time the whole time. And that's what's going on here. We've got this 17 loop that is going 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, which is fun. Anyway, Björk's coming in now with some other stuff.
As the look
Okay, so the other part is keeping much more simple than the higher part and than Björk's part. It's really just playing 4 different notes, spelling out an E minor chord, but that's not really how it feels, is it? Because we have so long between each of these notes that they feel quite separate. Overall, with this high melody and the low part there, it does feel like we're just keeping in this space. It doesn't feel like anything's changing a massive amount. But they do feel different to if we just had one straight chord being held here. You might be able to feel the tonality resonating through these different relationships, but it doesn't feel like they are meshing into just one solid chord. So it's a kind of different listening experience. So let's see how many times we get each of these notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's 4, 4, 5, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, what does that equal? 4, 4, 4, 5, 17. So it's another way of getting the same amount of beats. We've got 17 beats, but now we've split it into 3 4s and a 5. So it should end up being the same, it should repeat at the same times, which is cool. So we are basically in 17/8 in this then. Hands of the God. Yeah, so where does that come in? Where does that first one come in? I think it comes in on the second one of those. Let's just... It comes in on the first one of those, which resettles this this rhythm actually. So it's now not going and having the emphasis on the first, like that on the last ones of each of those 3s there. But now it feels like that's where we're going. But this is much of a muchness. We could analyze the rhythmic relationships there for the 1. We could try and find the 1 of the key, but it doesn't really feel like there is 1. And by 1, I don't mean 1 of the key, I mean 1 of the sort of bar. It doesn't really feel like there are bars, though clearly it's repeating in 2 similar segments. They're repeating 17s, but it doesn't feel like any one of these particular beats is the 1 of the bar. If we listen a bit further, you'll be able to see that yourself. It just feels like there's 3 different lines flowing through time, repeating. The way that Björk's voice fits over it is really the key to this, because she's singing these lines, as the lukewarm hands of the gods, and really freely fitting in those words, not trying to fit it to a predetermined rhythmic framework. Well, at least that's how I interpret it. There might be some case to be made for that. Let's try and see where she fits it in. Oh, am I disconnected? just remembered I'm actually still recording this, so even if it's not streaming, I should probably focus on what I'm doing. Interesting. Okay, well, anyway, what's going on in those bits is we've got one particular bit that recurs, which is Björk going G A B. That happens a few times, and then a lot of reliance on G, E, and D for the rest. All of those notes are the main things going on there. One moment where she goes down to a C and a B lower, for a little bit of a difference. Rather than going up like that, it feels like the opposite. It feels like doo-doo-doo is the upwards one, and then da-da-da. They're both going to B, but they're coming from different sides. So there's a deliberacy there in the melody, but a lot of what is going on is fitting in these words in their own space. All these syllables are given their own space, and they're just fitting in with a few specific notes, really like Gregorian chant here. So it's fitting in lots of syllables kind of to the same notes, with a little bit of back and forth between the E and the G especially, all just fitting in the same kind of place, and repeating only specific notes, and then ending phrases with that upwards phrase or the lower phrase. So yeah, interesting how it fits. But each of those, they occur at different moments in the repetitive patterns behind them. Also, the lower pattern isn't quite sticking to those notes later on. It is going a little bit higher, but still keeping very much to that tonality. So E minor tonality is what's going on here. Anyway, that's what's going on here. So, yeah, G, E, adrenaline, and then pearls goes up just like God's did before. Okay. Yeah, both lines just keeping to the same space, and then fear out. Hang on, was mouths like that too? Yeah, their mouths, and rinsed all the fear out. Same thing. Okay. Yeah, same thing. And then them. It really feels like old medieval music. And then Saliva also does the same. Now we're in a slightly different place with both of these instruments. Maybe it's just the lower instrument twice. But we've got a low D, a low E, and a B. So now we are kind of holding a chord. It's not a clear chord though. We've got no third in this chord. It sort of feels like an E minor 7. So we've not changed vastly from where we were. But that's what we got. I think we also get a nice hit of drums there. Yeah. Oh. So we're changing. We're definitely in a different place now. Yeah. And this is just being held. It's got a very clear 5 though. Bow. Bow. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bow. So we're definitely in 5 now. In fact, the top line is actually going between those two notes while the low note just keeps on the D. So the E is not really clear there for most of the time. It is ringing on, but yeah, it's mainly that B and the D at the bottom. And we're still holding. So this is a real. Oh, and then we've got an extra note. We've got that G, which is a bit sharp from my G. And that then just feels like G and D, but we do still feel the resonance of the previous notes, the E and the B. So does it feel like just a G power chord there, the D and the G, or does it feel like this big, well, either G6 chord or E minor 7 chord? Good question. We've still got the E coming through sometimes. It's just that top note has changed to G instead of B. Ooh, more regular drum hits there as Björk comes back in. Okay, and then lines that are more like what we started with. They might even be the same as what the lower instrument continues to do. They're kind of harps, these instruments. Like there is one on the album cover. I don't know if this is what she's used. This cool thing sewn into her incredible gown, but whatever it is, I mean, that is what we're looking at. We're looking at harps, and that rested, that's a different melody to what we had before. Just same sound world, same key, but different notes chosen. Well, okay, different intervals chosen, I guess. Yeah, so it's going between. Interesting. So that melody there from Björk is actually the same as we had before. A mix of those two notes and then the doo-doo-doo at the end. So it feels like we're still connected to the same section, but we haven't got the high thing happening anymore. We've got comparable low things happening. We've got that low D coming through, and this is kind of raising through here. So it feels very similar, but we have changed the feel of it quite a lot with that low D being held on, and with the muted bass drum coming through as well. It feels thicker and more unruly. But then we do get that coming back, and it feels like we're back into the verse then. Somehow, without changing very much, it does feel like a big difference as that comes in and as the bass drum fades out. Okay, the bass drum is still there. It still definitely wants to be known. Bum, 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 bum. Feels like there's a little bit of pitch to it as well. To me, it felt like it was going B, 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 E. I might be wrong about that because it's so low. The melody there on Circumstances is different, which adds weight to it. It doesn't have that much weight otherwise. Obviously, life-threatening circumstances, we want weight to that kind of thing probably most of the time. It's the highest note reached yet, the C there. I think it might even be the highest note in the song. Cool, let's keep going. And once again be reborn. Back to normal there though. Same kind of thing, but we're just fitting all the syllables that we would want on that G, or on the G and the E sometimes. Okay, I feel if I try and analyse the the choral parts on this, we'll be here all day. But we've now got chorus, we've got extra voices going in, and we've got the normal melody from Björk, and then doing this kind of thing, which is a bit like the higher line there, just moving around the same tonality a little bit freely. Frankly, I think there's a mixture of both finesse and absolute acceptance of randomness on a lot of Björk's music, but maybe especially here. Acceptance of the natural choices of these things, and so those lines, they seem to have intentionality to them, and they seem well chosen, but it's not clear to me how you would go about rationalizing those choices. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, that's interesting. So we have a held sort of dissonance with our well, it sort of feels like we're more rooted around that E minor now, but therefore the holding of the F sharp and the D there, it feels like making that sort of minor 9 chord over that whole texture. They don't feel resolved until they go to the E. Björk again up on the C to cut through that thicker texture. Really nice. Okay. Again, we end on that. There's occasional unpleasant relationships between those other two voices, which I say they're unpleasant. I quite like them, but it's it's really freely associating, in a similar way to these. They're saying the same words at the same time, but the melody lines are not moving completely contiguously together. They are moving in different ways to express the same words. Björk there had that lower melody, so we've kind of got 3 now. One is this, and the other has stuff between C and B. And she walks it back up there, which is fun, back up to the G. Oh yeah, no, that bass drum definitely has pitch. So that's what we heard there. B, B, G, E, down about an octave, maybe another octave. Yeah, really nice. Okay, so now we're back on the thing that we were in around, what's the word? Rested. But now we've got more words. Two stars than you. Okay. An interesting melody there. Miserably. Something like that. Yeah, it's got a lot of this F sharp now. So if this is our sort of bass chord, on top of that is still, again, in the same key, in the same tonality, but it does feel a little bit more spicy than the rest. Yeah. Almost all times, even when some of the voices resolve down to an E or a B, there's this F sharp coming through. It's really holding the tension. And there's also that note, it would be the added, I guess if this is an E minor chord, it would be the added 11th and the added 9th that we're talking about, which really feel thick in a very modern classical kind of way, stacking notes into these cluster chords. They're not tone clusters or clusters which are really close to each other, like we can do that kind of thing. It feels a bit like that, but it doesn't feel too close. It doesn't feel really clashy. It feels like these have got their own space, but that they aren't really coalescing into a clear picture. They're making it a little more murky and a little more indistinct. There's the extra other note, the C up at the top there as well. So we're really getting basically all the notes of this chord. E, like all the notes of this tonality. E, G, B, D, F sharp, A, and C, all in this small space. Yeah, in fact, barely in a whole octave, right? No, well, okay. There's basically 2 octaves space to get 7 different notes in, which is a thick texture, a thick and very mid-range texture. Okay. So Björk there, very again around those A's and F sharps, while there's a higher melody doing a similar melody kind of shape, this kind of thing, which is interesting that they are occasionally going together very specifically. Realign the whole, they're actually realigning. Cool. But it's so polyphonic because we've got those different things doing their own thing. We've got Björk, who is occasionally in with the other singers, and then we've got an extra Björk voice sort of doing our counterpoint in between. You hear that here. Don't even know what she's saying there, but it's at a different time to the rest of the voices, just filling in what isn't even really a whole, but just some extra stuff being put in. So while some of them are realigned, there's this other Björk voice which is doing its own thing. Yeah, that's so nice. So we really comes to that E minor chord nice and strong. In fact, is it a minor? Can I hear the yes, very clearly. And then that last voice which just finishes off like we began, and in fact we've got the beginning 2 voices there as well. And then it says it again. We definitely have 3 voices. 3. We have this one, and we have that one, and we also have this lower one, which isn't doing so much, but I think it's going between D and E. We've got those 3 things happening. We've still got the bass happening, the bass drum. It's more common now. It's coming in more. Oh, but I think it's just dropped out. Yeah. Okay, it's still doing individual hits. Yeah, so it's doing individual hits, keeping us in 5 in this section. And we're back to this kind of E minor 7 tonality that we had at I've forgotten again. Rested, yeah. Okay. And we've got a different melody, which is sort of like the one we had on Circumstances, but it's a little bit lower. Okay, a little bit of filigree on there, but yeah, mainly keeping to this descending figure. Okay, and then there's the okay, everything. I see we've almost run out of lyrics, but we've got a minute left of this song. The thing from the beginning has come back in again. Okay, so we're sort of like in our A section. If this is going A, B, A, B, that seems an unnecessarily simplistic way of thinking about it, but it's sort of doing that. So sometimes these voices are really clear and we just get sort of an E minor with maybe with an added F sharp, and then sometimes we've got all those extra notes, the A and the C, really thickening things out. Yeah. Okay, this is a new line. It's similar to the main melody when it goes down to its lower part, but it's a new line. And it feels on the offbeat, don't you feel that? Okay. That's because it's actually in a different time signature. I think that's it. Let's just hear it again. Okay, yeah, so and yeah, we've got that extra beat of grace. If it didn't have that, if it just went straight then it would be nicely in 1, 2, 3, 4 times 2. But we've got an extra beat, so it's in 9. Let's see if I can count that. 1, 2, 1, 1, and 3, and 4, and 9. 1, 2. Okay. I can't count it, but it's in 9. Trust me. So yeah, we've got a thing in 9 and a thing in 17. 9 times 2 is 18. Well done, maths. So each time it repeats, it's one segment slower. It's one segment later. So the segments don't really align perfectly in this section, and that means that it sort of shifts in a classic sort of minimalist classical style, shifts slightly later each time. That's cool, and that kind of has been happening, but in a much less clear way with the lyrics. The lyrics go over the top, and they take as long as they take. Sometimes it might be 9 beats, sometimes it might be 10 or 7, and they just take as much time as they need to go over the top. So it feels like each time they repeat the same phrase, it's shifted. It's not in the same relationship to the other things behind it, and that adds a real layer of subtle interest in music like this. Oh, and just before the end there, we actually dropped out the higher melody and the lowest one as well. So yeah, it drops out there. So okay, 30 seconds before the end, 20 seconds, and then it feels like it's just the two of them, but we do still get those, and then everything finishes at the same time, which is quite nice. Yeah, interesting song, and I've clearly talked about it for 40 minutes already. I don't think I should spend as much time on the rest of them, but just to give you a clear sort of understanding of how these things go together, we basically had 2, 3, 4, 5 different voices in that song. Not a large amount of parts, but the way that they relate to each other is constantly evolving. We don't have any sections of that sound the same as the previous one. The first section is just those first 3 voices, the high harp, the low harp, and Björk. Then Björk sort of drops out for the second section, and we get just the lower 2 voices with the bass. She's in it a little bit, but she comes back and she comes back with extra voices in the third section. And as that goes into the fourth section, we've got that extra Björk voice as well, adding the counterpoint. And then slowly from there, things start to recede and go slightly more simplistic, and we end in a similar place to where we began. Lovely stuff. And we never really left the E minor tonality. We never had any other chords per se. We had some moments of feeling like maybe it was G, but it was always really rooted around that E. Yeah, so we're definitely occupying a different space to what we have been previously on this podcast. Cool, good stuff. Let's move on. Thunderbolt. Okay. A chord. Just a power chord. F sharp power chord, and Björk is in with that as 2, and we've got it on a lovely organ sounding thing. So for this album there were a load of unique instruments made, and I can't remember what they're called. I know there's a sharpsichord, and I know there's these swinging things which do some MIDI based on how they're swinging, which is cool, and will no doubt mean that tempo fluctuates in an interesting way. But let's ignore the amount that I don't know about this album and try and understand that I'm just leading you through what I do know.
Water's edge,
okay.
Cold frost.
Lovely. Yeah, it's this is somewhat of a step down in complexity. This is our some of our most power metal chords. Power chords: F sharp, D, a D, and E. Or 1, flat 6, flat 7, if you want. Very, very classic. We've heard that on the Franz Ferdinand album. We've heard that on the Radiohead album. So interesting that unites all of these.
On my twig.
And really interestingly, Björk is almost entirely locked in with those changes. They're working together on only 2-note chords, power chords, neither major nor minor, and they are just shifting around. We're definitely in a minor kind of tonality because that's how these chords fit together in either Phrygian or Aeolian mode. Either that one or that one. That's what can fit all 3 of these chords as they exist. So we're looking at a minor tonality, but it's not clear. It's not clear whether it's Phrygian, whether it's Aeolian. It's sitting in a middle ground between those 2, and yeah, a little bit mysterious, therefore.
My mind.
Okay. Now we've got a B power chord. So that really feels like our 1 chord, but it's not a power chord because Björk sings the 3rd of it, B minor. Okay, so we're looking at B minor. So probably that is our tonality. B minor. Because if we were in Phrygian from here, well, okay, that could be Phrygian from there. Yeah, I suppose we could still be in B minor Dorian. Yeah, I think that works. Whatever. Work it out for me. Let's keep going. Okay. Now she's not quite so locked in. She's moving up before the chords, and the chords come to match her note. And we get a C sharp minor chord, which is not what you would expect. And then a D chord. We've got the D chord, D major. We were expecting that. The C sharp minor actually does say we're in Dorian mode. So we should expect all of those chords that I just played.
Wonders around.
I love how that fits on top of there with so much reliance on the sharp 4, the sharp 11, before resolving back down.
desire. May
It's so sparse, isn't it? We've just got these two things, and one is so still. It's just changing chord in very predictable ways, and then Björk is doing more flowery things on top. And here's our chorus. May I? Yes, I may.
Can I, or have I too often craving miracles?
Okay. That's our main sort of bit of melody there. That comes from time to time here on Craving Miracles. It's cool. Whereas the other notes are all basically on the D. So it's just holding this chord. It's just holding
Or have I
with space in between, but yeah, it's just holding it. And even over this,
craving
it's just holding. Okay, and then we get we get such a pregnant pause. How long is that pause?
craving miracles.
It starts at 55 or just before. And there's a breath. At 59, 5 seconds of silence. 5 seconds of silence, a breath. And then what comes in? What comes in afterwards? Well, Björk comes in just before everyone else, which is pretty fun. We're still in B minor, and then no. We've got extra voices again. We've got that bop, 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 bop. This bass part coming through, which feels, yeah, is it the Tesla coil instrument that she had on this one? It feels so electric. It feels so like lightning. Okay. So the harmony is getting really unusual in this section. Just in the inner parts, the melody is actually pretty straightforward. It's working like it did previously. Yeah, so the melody is just going up those 5 notes, okay, and it's mainly going up when it gets to there. It stays there for a bit and then it goes back down again, but the inner parts, we're getting all sorts of unexpected notes. The chords, I think, are still going up as they did in the previous section. B5, C sharp 5, D5, but then yeah, I think we do go up to F sharp and E as well, so it goes a bit further than it did in the previous section. So that's our first one. It's like this, yeah, not quite a C, but something like that. And that chord has so many extra notes on, sort of feels like a 9 chord, a major 9 chord. Yeah, it's either a really flat C sharp or a sharp C. And it does that there on that F sharp minor chord. We kind of get that going on, so it's having the sharp 11 going into the going up to the 5, C to C sharp. And I'll yeah, one of my favourite chords. Oh, B sharp 11. We've got the 7, 9 and the sharp 11. And that's what we get there. Just, yeah, so satisfying. And it's not what we would expect from this tonality as well, because we've got that C back in again. That's happening a few times here, either a sharp C or an actual C that fits in. I don't know how to analyze that kind of stuff, because it could just be it could just be an accidental mistake, or it could be a deliberate feature. It's kind of insensible to see it as a mistake, because it's what we've got. So I see Björk has put in a really unsettling note there. It could be like aiming for a new kind of seventh, who knows? But it feels more in line with the rest of them on that chord. Okay, so that was much clearer, wasn't it? Yeah, I think the bass bit is. Oh yeah, it's actually spelling out a B minor 6 chord on that chord, which is fun. And Björk was singing just on her own. The voices came in again for humble. Just to add an extra note, they're singing humble, humble, and Björk is on humble. So we've got cluster of things there, which is really nice. Dangerous gift. Okay. Again, adding extra notes to the chords, if you want to think about it that way. That doesn't fit with that F sharp minor chord, but it's there. Yeah. She goes one higher in this line, which is still just working in the B Dorian place. Another big pause, not quite as big as before, and the breath was more expected that time. And now we're going back to our chorus section. It's just doing B5 things on the farty bass thing. This feels very, very similar to the previous chorus, but it's just got that extra instrument in the bass. Okay, what will happen this time? We get a pause again, only a short one. Aha! Who saw that? Who saw that coming? We're suddenly in a kind of shuffle. We've got swing time going on in the drums there. The drums are really the kind of hi-hat sound, which is otherwise pretty normal sounding, is very bitty. It sounds like it's been bit crushed or something. Production is not my forte, but that's what it sounds like to me. It might be a tambourine, in fact, but obviously it could be something unique that was only made for this album. And it sounds like we've got a shaker instead of a snare drum as well. But this feels like what is basically a standard drum beat. It doesn't feel like something from way out in the shade of imagination's darkland. Dominant. So adding the sharp 11 there again. This is our standard chord progression, I think, for this section now. It's going B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and then coming back down via E to D. So it's moving by step through the key in a predictable fashion and at a predictable rate as well. This actually has much more of a tempo than the previous one, doesn't it? It's not just 17s interlocking and then 5s interlocking. This is really 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It even has a regular amount 4 there. 4 things of 4 beats, which is really considerate. Very straightforward, much easier to get under your fingernails
and it hungers for
Okay.
union.
Gosh, it's so good. There's what, maybe 4 or 5, maybe more different voices coming in there, and they're all slightly different, slightly untogether, and locking in unusual ways, adding extra notes, filling out this chaotic heaven. And then whoosh, nice extra effect there. The drums have dropped out here. It's back to Björk and organ, but we do and then they're back in, and we've got that sound, which is almost like a reversed snare, or it could be a reversed snare or a reversed cymbal kind of sound, but it also feels like the sea. And now all those voices embracing, and they come together. They don't constantly feel at odds. They have moments of coming together on that, which no longer has the C in. It's really only in that bit that it had the C, in that first bit. It feels much more unified. Okay, and here's our chorus section again. And now it's craved miracles. What's the difference? I don't know. I'm not a literary critic. Okay. So that was the same, but we had the drums. Were they straighter? Let's just listen to that. I feel a tiny bit straighter, but let's just check. Where is it? Maybe a tiny bit. It's hard to tell that. It feels like it's just a tiny bit earlier, but I might just be confirmation biasing myself there. Craved there was just these 2 notes. Okay, waves. Okay, so now the bass thing has started doing a different rhythm. Threes. It's doing threes rather than bum 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 bum. Twos rather than quavers. Doing that kind of thing. It's now doing a little bit slower and fitting in a bit better with the swung drums. But that, of course, is not the most interesting thing going on here, which is the vocals, which are going all over the place, reaching new highs. We've got up to an E there. It feels like there's just several different voices overlapping and taking the consciousness, taking your main perception point and taking it over here, and then the other one takes it over there, and then there's another one. So they're all just fighting for your attention here, and it does feel like the wind and the waves. So it's very, very appropriate for the wording. It's really word painting is what it is. It's really cool. Okay, and that goes with the as well. So all these instruments are sort of embodying different natural features, which is great. It did back off there for In My Face, I guess, because In My Face is not as windy or wavy as the words wind and waves, I guess. Thunderstorm. Oh, cool. So the calm before the storm, you get the light, which is those voices. There's a ooh in the bass too, but the drums drop out. All of the most crackly sounds drop out, and then the storm. It's not quite as strong as I could imagine it, but it's very powerful. Okay. The thundery thing is going a lot slower here. I can't remember which notes it's doing specifically, but it's going more or less on the beat. It's actually going a little bit slower, and then everything's gone. It keeps doing this. It keeps taking everything out and then emerging again. Okay. Now it's got a kind of delay. We've got a very fast double click. But still just doing the B5 that is in our we know Craving Miracles this time. Okay. Now it feels a little bit more empty because that has dropped out. The lightning has dropped out, the drums have dropped out. We've just got the organ and some voices. We've still got what sounds like lots of voices. Let's see what they do. Ooh. You know, it's not the lightning that's dropped out. It's been filtered, so it sounds much softer, much less bright. It's coming through. Ugh. Oh yeah, there's the brightness of it again. And there's the voices. So this is an interesting section because the I think it's all interesting, but the voices are leaving Björk to it for various parts of this. So all my body parts are on as lightning hits my spine, sparkling prime runs through me. The only part they were really there for was this first line, all my body parts are one. And then, yeah, they're coming back for revive my wish, which is interesting. Why could that be? I don't know. Maybe because it sounds cool. Maybe because the yell into the storm is with a deeper embodiment, a deeper spirituality than these very specific to Björk elements, the lightning hitting her spine and prime running through her prime. A fond fizzy pop drink. I don't know, is prime fizzy? I've never had it, but yeah, no doubt Björk loves it and drank it at least 10 years before it was available. Slightly dodge cut there, I think, between I am inviolable, but let's assume that it was intentional. Yeah, she gets up to that nice C sharp, which I think is the highest note that she's got in this, and yeah, it's a continuation of this line, but now she takes it one note higher than before, so it's always been crescendoing and getting higher through the song. Okay, now this is an interesting bit. We've only got Björk and the electronic bass sound. We haven't got the organ for almost the first time, maybe the first time the whole song. It's still just doing our B minor B5 tonality in a pretty unreliable and very, very low pitch. So low that it sometimes just sounds like. Okay, and I think that's what we've got. Carrying on. Wow. Yeah, just B, B. Oh, and there's to unsaddle us, an F sharp to end on. Fine. Very interesting, very interesting. I can't sum all that up. But again, we only had a few voices. They did get thick, they got thick, but there's the chorus vocals, which are polyphonic as all hell. Björk's voice herself. We didn't get a second Björk in this. We had the organ, which was almost omnipresent. We had the Thunderbolt bass, which was very common and did lots of different things with very small amount of material. Very organic growth and change to that part. And then we had the drums, which were our sort of link to standard music, maybe, our link to pop music, giving us in just a few different parts, giving us a swing kind of drum beat, which was really interesting. All really interesting, completely unique piece of music, and all within one tonality, really, apart from in that first time when the voices appear, we get a lot of C, maybe a sharp C or just a C, giving us some slightly more jazzy feels. Okay, Crystalline, right. We've spent 70 minutes talking about 2 songs. Let's see if we can get through this one a bit faster. Okay. So, again, we've got plinky plonky things. This time they feel much more metallic and much more hit. So like a vibraphone kind of thing. And we've got a melody over the top again. Now we've got clearly a specific tonality of E flat major going on there, but that does change to I guess it kind of changes to a C minor tonality. The lines are a bit too complicated for me to pick apart. If you put on some headphones and you really go at it, I'm sure you can do it. I'm sure I can do it if I really try. But the point is, they're in this kind of space. We're looking at E flat Lydian or maybe C Dorian, but really I think it's E flat Lydian is the tonality that we're going with here.
Underneath our feet.
Yeah. Those are our lowest notes, and that's where Björk is leaning onto that sharp 11 of the Lydian kind of mode. The sharp 4. It's really lovely. Okay, we've got some drums coming in. They sound very whoosh, whoosh, like kind of seaweed. Yeah, what you could imagine seaweed sounding like underwater if you hit it. Slightly filtered. Okay, and then so we've got a classic Björk non-specific melody structure to Crystal Grow Like Plants, but Listen How They Grow is going to come up a few times.
I'm blinded by the lights. Listen how they grow in the core of the earth.
Yeah, we kind of have two different bits for Björk. One is more up here, and then the other one goes a little bit lower. So it's like an A and a B, but they're not the same. They're quite different in if you're thinking in terms of normal melodies, which would be almost exactly the same. They have a lot of difference. Okay, there was a little from the drums there, and this is kind of the chorus of this song. And we've got much more of a C. Actually, give me a moment. Yeah, we've got more of a G minor tonality now for this. still got lots of plinky plonky things. They're matching up in different ways, like we've explained, but this is a G minor tonality rather than the E flat major tonality that we had here. So how does that match up with our notes? It's actually just Aeolian, so that's straightforward. Okay, so we've gone from this to this. It doesn't actually feel like much has changed because there's no heavy bass here. There's nothing rooting us down. We occasionally hear G's at the lowest part, and we occasionally hear E flats in the other part as the lowest note as well. But there's nothing holding us into those tonalities. So it's all very airy, and there doesn't feel like there's a large amount of deep change between these two sections. But we do have a different melody as well. Which is actually similar to what we got in Moon as well, but which was that. And the voices now aren't doing their the chorus voices. These are they're not doing their wishy all over the place stuff. They're just holding on those crystalline, which is a very welcome difference. Okay, now there's some crazy drums coming in. Lots of processing on those drums. They sound really cool. And that's happening as our melody over these different lyrics. Rocks growing slow-mo. Yeah. If there's any repetition to the drums, I don't know. It's hard to tell. But certainly they are going for a sort of erupting volcano kind of feel where you can't you don't know what to expect until it happens, and then it's happened, and it won't necessarily happen the same way again. Okay, so that almost works like a standard chorus. We're actually in a are we in a normal? Let me just count the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we are. It's in 4, which is really nice. So that works very, very straightforward. If we have a change in tonality there, it's from G to E flat. It does sort of feel like it goes down to the E flat chord at different times. So we almost have a chord sequence there, which is like a G minor to E flat major, or minor 1 to major flat 6. Okay, and the drums bring us out of that, and they continuing on with the same thing going on here, but we do have a bass now rooting us down to those two different chords. Actually, it's a little more complicated than that, and the bass is doing what the Plinky Plonkies have been doing previously. Let's try and get that. So, yeah. Yeah, so. Oh, come on, let's do it one more time. Yeah, okay. It's not that, is it? Yeah, okay, maybe it is. So that's suggesting we actually have a chord on the way as well, which is this B flat chord. Get that C sharp minor just at the end there, but it's much of a muchness. There's no point thinking that that's what we're doing unless you want to liken it to something that makes that, of which there are loads, but it doesn't sound like those, does it? Anyway, That's what the bass is doing. And it's what the low plinky plonky is doing. Okay, open. We certainly do, don't we, Björk? Yeah. Okay, we've just got a low G, and it's otherwise totally open with lots of sound effects, backwards sounding things. Okay, just drums. Yeah, interesting. That felt like an unusual amount of beats, but I'm not going to bother counting. So it's not important. Our plinky plonkies have come back in, and this feels a bit like where we were at the beginning. But now we have this G rooting us down, so it doesn't feel like an E flat chord now. We've got that G at the bottom, so it feels more like a G minor chord. Yeah, so again we've got a high bit for Björk, and then she comes a little bit lower. So it's like our verse section. Okay, and then we come to the chorus. Okay, this definitely feels more driven now because we've got the bass in this section, we've got the drums straight from the beginning, and they're really guiding us through. It's thicker texture, but also it's a more driven texture because we've got more movement, more and regular movement as well, which is very unlike the rest of them. Okay, and then it's carrying on with the same kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, and this is you can tell there that there's a shift in the higher part without it being that clear, but it does feel like much more like the beginning accompaniment. Yeah, just there. So this is our stuff from the chorus. The notes are different, and then it's slightly brighter. It's got a more open feel. The bass is coming in with some chords, or some notes rather, and it's these three again, so B flat, E flat and G. None of them feel like they're rooting us specifically to each of those chords. They're not strong enough for that, and they're not present enough for that. Kind of like we were talking about in Airbag, where the bass just comes in from time to time. Okay, and now it's just the bass and the drums. The drums feel a lot clearer, like they feel a lot more like classic drum sounds, even though they have got a certain amount of processing on them, and the one that comes in from time to time is really very different. But yeah, these kind of sounds are very classic, and the reverb we've got on here makes it feel almost like trap, which I'm surprised to say. I guess Björk is just always ahead of the curve. And there's our, yeah, coming back in again. Yeah, it does actually feel a little bit more like the E flat tonality that we do get at the beginning there. The bass is leading us all over the place, and then it drops out again. Okay, and we've just got some open space. We can hear that it's building up to something. It's building up to the chorus. And then an anticlimactic, not everything drops in after the big drop. Of course, this was 2011, which is dubstep time. And yeah, so the drop was everything, and it is not really everything here. They build, and then all that comes in is those plinky plonkies. Yeah, it's the tonality of the chorus, and that's what's going on. And now the drums are back in again, so it was just a haha, you got it wrong. And then it was back to normal. Well, back to what we would expect from this. Oh! And now we're layering the crystalline and the internal nebula with the listen how they grow. So we've got two melodies at the same time with one repeated chorus word as well. So it's getting thicker and thicker. Yeah, very nice. It works very well because they're all in the same tonal space. They are all in the same tonal space, but very importantly, they all have different rhythms, so that internal nebula is mainly on the offbeat, whereas crystalline is just coming at the back there, and listen how they grow is a mixture of on the beat and off the beat, and especially that li comes when nothing is coming in the other part, so it's very clear to hear the entry so that you can hear both voices entering and then continuing on their own trajectories. Anyway, that's our last chorus, and now the insane drums come. So you can actually hear that there's a repeat going on in the drums there. It's like a something like that. Doing threes, which is fun because we've not had threes previously in this. And then, okay, and a very Aphex Twin kind of sounding drum beats. And over this crazy beat, Björk is singing a melody that we have heard before. It's the Listen How They Grow melody, but it's over Sparkle You Become now. And it's really just Björk and the drums, and it feels like they're on two totally different pages. Very enjoyable. Yeah. And they're just going nuts. They do feel like a realistic drum groove almost, and that wow kind of thing is going on extra in the background. It doesn't feel like that's part of the drum beat, it feels like that's extra. Yeah, it's really interesting. We've almost got two different hi-hat sounds, I think. Oh, and then we just got a little bit more bit crushed at the end there before, ow, we're off. Very interesting. Could obviously go deeper, but it would be exhausting. So let's look at Cosmogony. Cosmogony? I really don't know, and I can't remember what it means exactly either. I think it's like created in space. Maybe I'll look that up in a mo. Anyway, what is this noise? Now, this is a little bit of a thing for me. I'm not a massive fan of that beginning, because what I really want is for all of those voices to clear into the chord. But what they don't do is that. They do ascending. There's so many different voices ascending, it's hard to count, and then they all fade into nothing rather than clearing into this really nice chord. Instead we get this slightly honky synth, which it might actually just be trumpets or brass, but it sounds a bit like a synth. And then we get those sliding up. It still sounds good, but it is not quite what I was looking for. Okay. Descending slide bass there, in the bass, doing that kind of thing. But other than that, we've got some actually clear chords. We've got F sharp, C sharp, D sharp minor, and A sharp minor. Or if we think about this in the sensible key, G flat major, D flat major, E flat minor, and B flat minor. And these chords are going to come up fairly often. What's quite fun is that they don't just sit there, they have that kind of slides up from the higher parts of the brass ensemble or the synth. We've got some very subtle drums behind this. And everything sort of fades out through there, gets much more it's going away and leaving Björk on her own. That melody happens a few times in this song. Yeah, it's good. And then we have the verse section. Again, everything is still really far back. We get those bass slides, and we've got a different set of chords. Which are B, F, B, sorry, F sharp, B, F. It's really just those chords. There might be a bit of C sharp major in there as well, but it's a much more simple thing than most of what's going on this album. And it's just letting Björk tell the story, which is a totally different approach to what we've had before. And the melody is really repetitive. It's doing the same thing phrase after phrase, but then even on the world we know this time, maybe not in the future, but certainly this time. And then okay, I might have got those chords wrong the first time. F sharp, sorry, G, let's call it G. Yeah, G flat, even though we've got a B here, we can call that C flat, and that's a little bit easier for me. G flat, E flat minor, we kind of get a C sharp on E sharp there, or a D flat on F, sorry. And that feels like that G flat on B flat, going to C flat, and we get the bass note changes there again as well. C flat, going to A flat minor, and then yeah, that's an unclear chord. It feels like we've got kind of a B flat sus4 chord going on. But then, yeah, it feels like it goes back to the C there. Everything is still quite unclear, quite background in comparison to Björk. The voices are cutting through a little bit more, and that's partly because they're higher. But everything is going back in these sections. So the subtleties are really only there if you're listening very clearly. But clearly there is something different going on to the first chorus. We've got those kind of things going on. It's like, yeah, something like that. And we're rooted still around the same kind of tonality, but it just is treated differently. And when we get back, again, the chorus coming through much clearer than the rest. Yeah. Just holding a seventh there in those two voices at the end. Yeah, she's very happy to try a lot of things, and has a very interesting taste.
And they say back then our universe
Big gong
was
sounds.
an endless land until
Oh,
our ancestors.
we've got an extra note there. Which in, if we're thinking in C flat, that is, oh no, C flat, B flat, B double flat. It's B double flat.
Woke up and before they went back to sleep,
And this is a little bit longer, and the melody. Right, the melody, because we're going longer, it's going higher. Into the world we know. And the two melodies go. I think it's that. Something like that. So that there's the two Björks folding around each other, doing slides between notes. The choir was doing this as well, so sliding up. It's quite an unusual thing to do, but very, very easy with a voice, so I don't know why it's not done more with voices really. But yeah, really cool. And now finally everything is cleared. Everything sounds clear and not far away anymore. We've got those bright brass sounds. Yeah. And the smashing gongs. It's really, really very different. Oh, but now we're going back in our hole again. But the gong is still coming through pretty strongly, but that's just gongs for you. Okay. This feels very similar to the first time, but it's got drums, it's got other things going on. And it's clearing, isn't it? Very similar to the first verse there. Okay, now just everything is fitting together very nicely. It doesn't feel too big. There's still a little bit of mutedness to a lot of these things. Oh, and now we're descending. Oh wow. A few drum hits, but otherwise it's just these descending female vocals going down and down and down. One held note through that, one held note through that, which is the B. Everything else is just shifting down. Some of those slides in the bass as well. Oh gosh, haunting. Good, good breath support. Wow, yeah. A few extra notes coming through in the background. That was a nice melody. Sounds like an ad or a Intel Inside kind of thing. And then those also descending and lots of gong hits. Interesting end. Sort of feels like it's taking us away from the happiness, the beauty that we felt when Heaven's Bodies were whirling around Björk. Yeah, what to say about that one? It's more straightforward in a lot of ways. We've got a clear 4/4 all the way through, and clear chord sequences as well. It feels like we do actually have two different tonal centers, but they're very closely related, and one is this B or C flat tonality, and one is this F sharp or G flat tonality. And so when we get back to the chorus, when we get back to that chord a right, it feels very meaningful and powerful. Okay, well let's try and get at least half this album done. Dark Matter shouldn't take that much talking about, I reckon. No lyrics for this one, yeah. So, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. I shouldn't let these play for too long without talking about them, but we're roughly in D minor. But we've also got this C sharp augmented tonality going on here. And when we were on that D minor chord, we did have a C sharp in it as well. So it's a minor chord with a major seventh, which is a very beautiful but very powerfully upsetting tonality. And that's kind of what we've got there, except we've got okay. It feels like it's these notes with that one up an octave. That's what we're looking at. So those notes together, they don't sound awfully good. If we took this pair, that sounds good. And that pair sounds okay. But both of them together, because these two are a minor ninth apart from each other, that's the same as being right next to each other in the same octave. So they really compete for the ear. So it's not a nice tonality, but what you would call it, if you wanted to, would probably be a D major on C sharp. And it shifts down, as does that, while that one stays where it is. So both of the notes which were minor ninth apart still are, but they've both shifted down a semitone, which is making the tonality even less clear. What would you call that? You wouldn't, frankly. That basically is let's call it a trichord. I'm not sure that that's a triad. We can call it a triad, I suppose. With a D, no, sorry, a C sharp, or a D flat, and an F sharp. So you could call it a 0-1-6 trichord, triad, 0-1-6. I think that's a specific atonal terminology. I think that's how it works. But that, because it's got 0 is our main note, 1 is the semitone higher, and then 6 is a tritone higher. Okay, because it's 6 semitones higher. So it's 1 semitone higher and 6 semitone higher, so it's 0-1-6. That's why it's called that. So that's what we've got there. Okay. There is actually another note in there though. Oh, jeepers. So this sounds quite nice, really, these ones, and they work out to be an F sharp minor chord. But we've also got, that's C on there, so F sharp minor on C. Alright, that's given us enough context to name it. Now, the question is, did we have that note in the previous chord? Yes, we had actually the same note. So that is giving more credence to this being a D major chord on C sharp, and then this is an F sharp minor chord on C. Okay. I can hear another note coming through. Oh, but that's just a repeat of that note. That's interesting. Okay. I think this one's only there for a short amount of time. those. Is there an easy way to play that on guitar? Yeah. So we've got those, and we've got I think it's those. Yeah. Let's just try again. Oh gosh. That's our high note. And then we've got that and that. Could be those four. We've definitely got those fighting each other. Have we got that as well? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So that's giving us A, G sharp, C sharp, and D, which you can see in a lot of different ways, but basically we've got two things which are right next to each other. The A and the G sharp are right next to each other, and the C sharp and the D are also right next to each other, fighting for your ear. So that's why it takes me so long to actually work out what it is. There's a choir and organ version here, which I'm interested to see how they emulate this. But then we're back to our initial place, I think. Maybe it's more of a F sharp minor. Yeah, F sharp minor on C sharp. That's actually quite clear, that chord, which is nice. Okay, and then this is where we start, and we've got, yeah, we've got that kind of thing. So it's that D minor 7. So what we had there then, to recap, we had this lovely D on C sharp, then we had this F sharp minor on C, then we had this impossible to name chord. You could call it A major 7, add 11 if you like, but it doesn't really feel like that. And then we went back to an F sharp minor chord on C sharp, the second version. So that's pretty straightforward if that one doesn't sound too weird. And then we jump tonality to a D minor with a major 7th. And that's where we start. Does it have a... Let's just check that. No, okay, it doesn't have a majorness to it as well. But then when we move to the next chord, Björk definitely moves there, but the chord is really yeah, so the chord is really holding this C sharp augmented tonality, but Björk is up here giving us that F sharp. So it's like it's the F sharp on C sharp tonality we had before, but we've got an extra F, an extra E sharp in it. So we've got a big clash there, which is a cool melody as well. She's sticking to that note even though it's not represented in the chord. It's really cool. And then that is one of my favourite sort of ghost chords. It's adding the natural fifth back into the augmented chord. That's a major chord with a natural fifth. That's what it would be if it was fully augmented with two different versions of the sharp fifth. And that's where it has both. It really feels ghostly. We've got... That's really what it is, frankly. You you could see it as an augmented chord with a major seventh. But yeah, then she comes down from that note back to the one which doesn't work. Okay, God knows what that's going on there. It kind of sounds like our first tonality, but we've also got that G coming through. It's also dark is the problem. We've also got that in there. So we've got I think we've got a C sharp in the bass. The bass is very unclear. But she's singing lower. Okay. Well, I feel like this is stretching me further than I can really go, but I'm going to turn it up and try a couple more times. That bass is so unclear. It's so. There's Björk's note. We've got there too. So that would suggest an F major chord. And then has to sing what would make it an F minor chord. A flat. Okay. So we're operating in. Kind of, I don't know, it's hard to even name that scale. You could maybe see it as F sharp minor territory, with that being harmonic minor, but I'm sure that's not what Björk is thinking. Okay, another cluster, but this one sounds almost familiar. Yeah, I think we're... We're back at our D minor major 7, but we've also got that added note. So we're looking at a D minor major 7, add sharp 11. With... Is that in there? Let me just check that. No. Okay. It's not actually got the major 7 in there. But it does have a sharp 11 and actually a normal 7th. Normal 7th, so it really feels like that favourite of my chords. One of those, but we've got the 7th at the top, which is cool. And actually, those two together, they feel like a major third, which is what they are normally. But when you have a sharp 11 chord, they actually... If you think about the spelling of it, which you don't have to, but we've got a G sharp and a C, and a G sharp and a C are actually an augmented fourth apart. So depending on how Björk uses that, it might work in a slightly different way to a normal third, because it's not really a normal third. But it does actually feel very like a third just sitting on the top of this chord, because it's such a strange chord. Yeah, so they resolve up and down like that. And then this one goes... So what does it do? Oh, the top one... Yeah. Well, this one goes up, which is really, yeah, nice. They're going in opposite directions, but really together. And then we go again with that. And then that, sitting with this chord. Oh, goodness me. Okay, there's an F sharp with an F in this chord. Yeah, that's the minor 6th from that B, And then that is just a big clashy major third, which we wouldn't expect, but we're glad to see it. And then something. This top voice is really playing with chromatics. That's really beautiful. Yeah. Overall, this is kind of our tonality. Somewhere around here. We've not got a vast amount of notes being used between these chords. That's actually quite clear. That's our top note, definitely. Yeah, it sort of feels like it's going between some of those notes on the bass. That's hard to work out though. That's another minor major 7 chord there, but now it's A minor major 7, and it's just all the way up there. Classic bit of melody there. This has happened several times in this song, but now it's harmonized in a slightly different way in thirds, which is nice and sweet. Okay, chords getting more complicated again. It's close enough to our general area. B, sorry, not B. It's sort of like D and C sharp tonality at the same time. Roughly fits almost all of our chords. That one is one by itself. Yeah, so that's what Björk has actually just done there, going between B. That's a lot of these two thirds just moving down a semitone between a B major chord and a C sharp major chord. So if you wanted to really dumb it down, that's probably what the takeaway is. Yeah, so somewhere in between those two things. Maybe with a C thrown in there for good measure. Yeah, and the F, which would be in the C sharp major chord. And these things keep coming in and out, and it never really settles. You've got this overarching unpleasantness, and it doesn't go too far away from that. But it never feels settled. You never suddenly know where we are. It's very hard to write something like this. She's singing very low for Björk. She's almost lost behind the very present organ. Big slide up, making that kind of 7th chord with no third. Fun. Now we're harmonized in 3 parts. So we've got main Björk and then 2 very synthesizey sounding Björks as well. Making that major 7 chord, just a straightforward D major 7 there. And while middle Björk, normal Björk, does the melody there, they stay put. As they stay put, there's a little bit of wavering, but they stay put. Yeah. Oh man, that's really nice. Is it that? Feels like it's that chord, which again is like our it's mixing these two chords together. That C is what adds the interest. When we've got notes from the other chords, it's that C which really gives it agency, gives this harmony a feeling of going somewhere else. Okay, and it clears a bit. We actually get an F sharp minor as our bass note. So we've got that C and C sharp there. Maybe a D. Actually, that's not quite what it is. Yeah, the C is up beyond your hearing. That's another. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, let's work out this last grand build. Sort of feels like a minor 6 chord there. No, sorry, a minor chord in second inversion. What am I doing? Definitely got those. So, okay, so we've got F, D, C, which was until recently C sharp, C and D. So we had 2 Ds, so that's not so complicated. But we've got some other stuff going on, have we not? F sharp down there. Okay. F sharp, F, D, C, straightforward. C sharp, come back in the voices along with a B. And then yeah, just to fill out the chord, we've got an A there as well. F sharp at the top. Yeah, that's the A. Yeah. Okay, so I think then F sharp at the bottom, then we've got F, D, A, and C. That by itself is not too complicated. It's definitely a minor 7 chord in first inversion. So D minor 7 in first inversion. But then we have F sharp at the bottom, really rooting it somewhere else. You could see that as quite a racy key change to F sharp major, but that isn't what happens. We just hold those 2 different tone worlds together. So yeah, a whole load of dark matter in that song. mainly sort of D and C sharp tonalities, with C coming in to really make things exciting from time to time, just really making it something else than what it is, and everything just clashing loads of the time. There might be a schematic I'm totally missing behind this, but it seems to just go and go. It doesn't seem like there are any specific repeats, though there are some bits of melody that repeat from time to time. And really it's just that one that I noticed, which happens from time to time. Yeah, hard to say without some insider knowledge on what's exactly going on there. Anyway, we've looked at 5 of the 10 songs. Why not let's look at the other 5 some other time. I am a bit knackered from all of that. That was complicated, difficult earwork, if there is such a thing. I've never heard of it before. So I will see you then some other time to look at some more of that. Bye bye.